My name is David Kwekusechi, and this show is sponsored by Creamy Plus and Skywater. I want to say a big thank you to Cap Kane Enterprises for our beautiful set, the Kane furniture, and also to Exa Ventures for our scented candles, citronella candles as well. Well, we're going to go into our community-focused stories, and something that's very, very critical, I would say, to the entire discourse of who we are as a people is the care for our aged and our less privileged. A few years ago, or some years ago, the government instituted a LEAP scheme, Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty scheme. But right now, it looks as though there are challenges, or there have been some challenges with this scheme for a while, and the beneficiaries are calling for increments. There's a report that we have filed by our colleague Caleb Kuda. Let's take a look at this report. When we come back, we'll get into some conversations.
It's a hot afternoon. Davia Josusumpo is taking a nap under a coconut tree on the beach of the Adan estuary in the Greater Accra region. The indigents in this area call it Keji, to wit, on top of the sand. Davi has advanced in age, though she's not sure how old she is. Age has caught up with the mother of 9, with 3 surviving, 1 an invalid, and 2 hustling far away from home. To make life bearable for extremely poor and vulnerable households, the government of Ghana introduced in 2008 the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, LEAP. The social protection program is a cash transfer-based one. The eligible members are orphaned and vulnerable children, persons with severe disability without any productive capacity, and elderly persons 65 years and above, like Davi Ajo. Though Davi Ajo has been receiving stipends, she doesn't know its name. She receives between $11 to $12 equivalent of the cedi every 2 months. However, the dispersal could delay for up to 6 months. Though small, the stipend helps keep body and soul together, and she wants government to disburse on time and increase it. Davia Jo took me to see her friend, Afokoku. Just like his friend, Fokoku hasn't received LEAP stipends in months. As vulnerable people, Afokoku says they have no right to demand for the stipend, but to remain hopeful for the good graces of the state.
aba nanu frenya shi aro enye planu shi na nanu globo no tsoga na mi no oni na mi aba mi o ka tota daro gbo nu nye unya nam ita mi ti by force order ka tsoga na o force tsoga na o ba alaklalo ni ya yo o yo mi ko nye ina.
Fokoku's neighbor is Dahore Kwawaye, a visually impaired widow. She lives in a shed made of coconut fronds and a roof, one that can easily be blown away by mild winds. How does she survive the rains? Dahore doesn't remember receiving any stipends under the LEAP program. Her wish is to live in a more secure home before she dies. These beneficiaries do not feel entitled to the stipends, but Head of Communications for LEAP, Coulson Akambasiam, says it is a right they are entitled to.
It's not a favor, it is a right. And it's a right because every citizen, every government has a contract with its people, and it's the duty of government to help those who cannot help themselves, the basis for which the social protection is being born, and there's a policy governing that gave birth to the LEAP program, and we have been in existence for a while. It's a duty because these are people who are selected based on targeting, and the selection is done based on poverty and vulnerability.
He explains considerations based on which grants are paid starting from 64 Ghana cedis or $5 for 2 months.
And the grant is paid based on the number of these vulnerable people in a household. So if one person is in a household, they are paid 64 Ghana cedis bi-monthly. If there are 2, 76 bi-monthly. If there are 3, 88 bi-monthly. And if there are 4 and above, they are equally paid 106. And anytime there are delays in the payment, we put these monies together. And every time we pay, we call it a cycle. So we can put 2 cycles together if there are delays, and we make sure we pay the arrears owed them for a particular cycle.
The delays in the release of the LEAP stipends, as well as its insufficiency, were captured in the 2021 Citizens Assessment of Social Protection Delivery in Ghana, CSO's Social Protection Report, otherwise referred to as the Mirror Report. According to the Mirror Report, available statistics show that Ghana's spending on social protection as a percentage of GDP is less than 1%. In 2019, it was 0.6%, which is below the sub-Saharan African average of 2.2% and that of most middle-income countries between 6.7% to 8.7%. However, there has been an increase in Ghana's social protection budgetary allocations and releases over time. Total spending on social protection in Ghana nearly doubled in nominal terms between the period 2015 and 2018. Despite this development, the Mirror Report observes that the budget allocation to the LEAP program has seen some constant drop over the past 4 years, from 2019 to 2022. Over 200 million Ghana cedis was allocated in 2020, and this amount was reduced to some 197 million in 2021. The 2022 budget shows an allocation of some 197 million Ghana cedis, which is just a 462 Ghana cedi increase in percentages. This is 0.0002% of the 2021 allocation. This, the report argues, is an insignificant increase and inadequate considering recent challenges confronting the LEAP program. To worsen the situation, the Mirror report observes the LEAP program only receives a fraction of the allocation. For example, only 35% of the allocation was received in 2020, while 44% of the allocation was received in 2021. When the issues were put to officials of LEAP, this is what they had to say.
Civil society can do advocacy around the grant amount and how regular we can be. But we need funding. Funding is the key. If you get regular funding from government and development partners to make sure that we're able to be more regular and consistent, it improves the impact of the program. And the other one is advocacy around the essence and value, because some Ghanaians don't really understand why we should be giving cash grant to people. But if people get the understanding that these are people who, but for the LEAP program, could not have survived the next day, at least we will be sure that there were more allocations and support for the program across the country. The delay, I think we've not experienced this for a long time, but because of the recent economic situation in the country, as we all know, COVID and Russia and Ukraine war has affected the economic situation in every country, not only Ghana. And that is what currently is. But government is still committed, though we are in these trying times. We currently don't owe any beneficiary in the areas. We have cleared that, especially for last year.
All right, so there you have it.
Yeah.
A report from our colleague, by our colleague, Caleb Kuda.
Right.
So we've been joined on the set this morning by Caleb Kuda, who is a broadcast journalist, and of course here at CTTV and CTFM, a man of many different parts. And then Dr. Emmanuel Eifa, who is the Deputy Director, Country Director for SEND Ghana. Of course, SEND Ghana has a lot of work in the social protection space as well. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Caleb, how are you?
I'm okay.
I see you found my grandfather.
Which of them?
Efo Koku.
Oh, Fokoku,
Efo
right.
Koku,
Yeah, Fokoku is a veteran fisherman.
Yeah. What was that experience like, talking to them, seeing how they live, seeing how their needs are very different from our needs, you know, or let's say their wants. They are very different from our wants.
You know, it was very eye-opening for me. The fact that this is not too far from the Accra.
Okay.
In fact, it's in the national capital. This is Adan.
Okay.
So you're not.
So it's Greater Accra.
You're not out of the national capital. I love the scenery. I'm a sucker for one, and so I really look forward to that. But the process of finding these people was quite tedious. We had earlier met some people who would pass for LEAP beneficiaries, and well, they had stories that you can really find in Accra, random kind of stories. So we really needed to push ourselves to get something that will really get everyone to sit up and want to watch to the end and think through and see, get the public informed about it, to remind those in authority about the realities of these people. So it was quite a lot of work, and here I must commend Albert Asante-Abua, as always, my cameraman. We really pushed ourselves because we had very limited time. We had to do so much to get you to see what you saw, and even finding the people to talk to. The last woman we saw, she gave me the chills.
She gave me the chills just watching.
What was it about her story that, you know, moved you beyond anything?
You see the shed she was living in?
Yeah.
I mean, it could get blown away by the wind.
Yeah.
And she lives there alone. She's visually impaired, and then she suffered an accident, so you don't see her. I don't know if the nose or the nostrils.
Nostrils.
So you could tell she was nasal. And she said she's not received any stipend, any grants under the LEAP program. Someone like that ordinarily should be on the LEAP program. But from what she says she's not received anything ever from LEAP. And from those who do receive, that is Davia, Joe Susumpo, and Fokoku, they tell me that, well, it had been a while since they received that. I mean, they've recently received their LEAP grants, but that was like 6 months. It's delayed for about 6 months. Plus, I got to discover that when it delays, according to them, they don't get all their arrears. They don't get the lump sum. But from what I heard from Mr. Coulson, who is the head of communications for the LEAP Secretariat, he says anytime it delays, they put it all together. Now, you also know that Mr. Coulson mentioned that they're entitled to about 64, 68 CDs every other 2 months. I mean, 2 months.
Depending on how many beneficiaries they have.
So when they mentioned that they had 190 CDs, I figured that should be the arrears that they had. But it's also interesting that though they received the LEAP grants, for those who receive it, they don't know their name, they don't know anything about it. And the second thing is they don't feel entitled to the LEAP, even though it's a right, they are entitled to it. The state is supposed to take care of them. So it was quite eye-opening for me. And then I think we should spend more time stepping out of Accra. We'll see a lot.
Yeah, but with the woman that has never received anything, does she know that there's actually even a program like LEAP?
Clearly not.
Yes.
Clearly not. She doesn't. And if she does, I mean, if she doesn't, neither of any of the people closest to her who could help also know about it to activate that for her. So it was quite an interesting thing.
Let me ask you, Dr. Afa, your work at Send Ghana, how closely engaged are you with the operations of LEAP?
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Let me commend Caleb and the team for doing a very good job. He rightly cited our 2021 Civil Society report, the first ever mirror report on social protection. And in fact, of course, we as civil society will not do anything without working closely with the LEAP Secretariat, the ministry that has the purview as far as social protection is concerned. That is the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Obviously, there are other ministries that are also in charge of social protection. But for LEAP in particular, it is the Social Protection and Gender Ministry. So we work closely with them. The story that Caleb told really is not different from the stories across the country. As far as LEAP in particular is concerned, and also social protection in general is concerned. In fact, what he did was just a small part of Ghana. For the project or for our report, we went to all the 10 former administrative regions in Ghana. And we wanted to have a sense of urban-rural dynamics as far as issues of LEAP and social protection in general is concerned. And the issues that have been highlighted about delays in payment is not new to all the other parts of Ghana. Let me just step back a little for us to probably understand this whole agenda of LEAP and how relevant it is. Per statistics, we have about 2.4 million Ghanaians in extreme poverty. At least as far as the latest Ghana Living Standard Survey, that the Statistical Service, 2.4 million extreme poverty, that Ghana Statistical Service turns out. That is the latest. Within this, that implies that if we are coming out with any program to help reduce poverty, we need to necessarily target this 2.4. But LEAP currently is targeting around 344,000 of such. LEAP started in 2008. We are currently in 2022. The amount that Caleb indicated, 64 Ghana cedis, depends on the number of beneficiary households. We have four main categories. When it's an individual household member, that is the 64. When it's two, then it's 76. When it is three, it is 88 cedis. And then 88. And 4 and above is 106 Ghana cedis bi-monthly. So every 2 months, we receive such an amount.
So So with this amount, are you saying it's given to an individual or two of them at the same time? Like maybe in a house with two people, it's just given, that amount is given to two of them to share, or just an individual?
Okay, so what happens is that there's an eligibility criteria for you to benefit. Of course, the very first most is that you should fall under the extreme poverty category. Beyond that, we should look at a vulnerable or orphan child in the household, or somebody above the age of 65-year-old and really do not have any dependent to fall on.
No, a productive source
Of course, and a productive source of income. Another is an indigent who also doesn't have any productive source of income. So basically, these are the categories. So if you fall within this, and assuming your household has just one person falling within this criteria, then it means that that household will have 64 Ghana cedis. If you have 3 persons in the household falling within this criteria, then that will be the 88 Ghana cedis. So it actually depends on the number of persons in the household that falls within the criteria, and it is for every 2 months. And the fact is that since I think 2015 or so, we've not seen an increment. So our research have shown, yes, our research have shown that from now going to the high inflation pressures, we have now inflation is around 52 or 54%. If you do the calculation, it means that between 46 to 50, I think 7% of reduction in the value of the LEAP amount that is given. So already the amount is very negligible, and if inflation is eroding away almost 42 to 57%, that means that really they cannot use the money to buy anything.
Yeah, but here, I think even the 47% or whatever it is that it has been eroded is even a conservative estimate of the real erosion, because when you think about the fact that in this country everything is influenced by the dollar, you know, then you look at how much we've lost. You know, 3 years ago we were talking about 5 Ghana cedis to the dollar, right? Now we're talking about 12, 13, you know, 14 cedis to the dollar.
And
so
fuel is no longer 9 cedis, 6 cedis.
Exactly.
yeah, you know, so when you consider the ripple effect of number 1, dollar, number 2, fuel, you see, and then there's the actual regular inflation, you know, then means that a lot more has actually been eroded.
Yes, in fact, you are right on that. This estimate that I'm giving you is something that was done in 2021.
Okay.
So I'm just using the fact that if even in 2021, the average erosion is between 42 and 57, then we should be much more concerned. Another thing that clearly we should also look at has to do with the fact that, and that is what was highlighted, even in timeliness of the disbursement. If you've been following, we've been talking to government over the past years about the fact that it's important to timely release the money. We have what is called expectations technically. So everybody forms an expectation based on the fact that maybe you're expecting to receive something. Exactly. One important aspect of LEAP is to smoothen consumption. And so if I'm expecting for you to pay me 64 Ghana cedis for 2 months, I form my consumption expectation
within that,
and expenditure based on that. And considering that I really do not have even anything. And so even as we are seeking to use LEAP to smoothen consumption, this may not really be the impact that we want. The fact is that LEAP has a lot of benefit. Research has shown there was an impact evaluation done by ISE and a host of other academics. We also have done ours. That clearly points to the local economy-wide impact of LEAP. A study looked at the fact that if you spend 1 Ghana cedi on a LEAP beneficiary, the local economy effect is about 2.5 Ghana cedis. And that tells us that LEAP really, it's something that is going to help economy, because, you know, mind you, they are going to use the money for consumption.
Yeah.
Right.
Research also shows that just around 63 or so % of household consumption is purely on food.
Okay.
Right.
And so if you give money to LEAP beneficiary, these are some of the attendant positive effects.
Right. But have there been any success stories from LEAP?
Okay, so exactly that is one that I mentioned. The fact that research has shown, and for us as SEN, we every time we base everything on evidence and research, has shown that for 1 Ghana cedi that is spent on a LEAP beneficiary, local economy-wise, we generate 2.5 cedis. So the evidence is there. So that is a success story. Another, we did some work before Caleb's work, and in fact, doing the mirror report and other things, people actually said there was one man still in Greater Accra, and of course another in the eastern regions, Lower Main also, which clearly showed that he had been able to use the money, the little as it was, that was 2020, before the COVID time, had been able to use the money to raise some chickens. So that is clearly something that as little as it was. There was this woman who used it to bake beef, buffalo as we call it.
Okay.
So there are a lot of success stories. If you are going strictly, these are not hardcore research evidence. These are interviews that we granted. Yes. However, if you look into the literature, and that is where we always want to point out, at least LEAP has also been able to increase school enrollment.
Oh, I see.
There are research evidence, yes, that is pointing to that fact. The point is that, there are what is called certain criteria that need to be met by household. And of course, one criteria is that you should not encourage child labor as far as you are a LEAP beneficiary. And for that matter, they are encouraged then to send their kids then to school. Another has to do with the fact that NHIS beneficiary, if you compare LEAP and non-LEAP beneficiary, I mean, people of the same caliber, the same extreme poverty, those who are actually on LEAP and those who are not, in terms of access to health, relatively, theirs is better than those who do not, because
most of them are enrolled
directly on NHIS. And so once you have that, then access to health and its, of course, attendant positive effects is something that will go to the LEAP person. So
one may be wondering, if you're watching, you may be wondering, you've probably heard the president talk about increase in budgetary allocations for social protection programs. You've heard the finance minister also say so. Now, what the Mirror report is making us understand is that allocation may have, gone up a bit, but in terms of disbursary, so for the finance ministry to actually disburse the money for the various agencies to receive them and then actually go on to disburse to the beneficiaries, there we see some variance. So let me read you a portion of the budget. It says the budget allocation to LEAP program has seen some constant drop for the past 4 years. That's 2019 to 2022. For instance, as evident in figure 5, a total of more than 200 million was allocated in 2020. And this amount was reduced to about 197 million. So on paper, you have 200 million as allocation. But in terms of actual disbursal, you have 197 million Ghana cedi allocated. In 2022, this reduced from 197, in 2021. Good. So in the 2022 budget shows an allocation of 197 million budget, which is just, so if you look at the 2021 and 2020 budget, the actual increase is 462 Ghana cedis. Not 4 million, not 4,000, but 462. Like what you used to buy fuel.
Allocation.
So what you used to buy fuel, that was the entire increment. So it's clearly insignificant and it's inadequate, considering actually the recent challenges.
300,000 beneficiaries.
Exactly.
What's the 400,000 going? What are the 400 cedis going
462
to do in terms
cedis.
of the?
In fact, let me indicate that the story we are seeing at LEAP is not different from all the 5 social protection programs. NHIS,
NHIS,
school feeding, capitation grant, and then the one that is not popular, labor-intensive public works. In terms of what Caleb read, we do what is called budget credibility analysis. That looks at budget deviations. And what we are seeing in the literature, and UNICEF also have pointed out same, that specifically in relation to LEAP and then the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection, just about 57% of the budget actually get realized. And so that tells us that if you allocate so much, you do not disperse, then they are constrained to really work. And this has been one of the challenges. And let me point out that this is not just within this current regime. Our estimate looks at from 2011 up to now, this has been the trend. However, I think over the past few years, from 2019 or so, we've seen massive reduction. And in fact, that is, and considering also the fact that the current economic challenges, it means that the people who matter in terms of helping them to come out of poverty are rather going deep.
What seems to be the challenge? I mean, you are allocating. The assumption is that you've already figured out a funding source, right? So you are allocating a certain amount. When it comes to disbursement, why is it such a challenge? I mean, I don't understand that.
Okay, so that is what we've always been discussing with government. In fact, if you talk to the LEAP Secretariat, if you talk to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, all they say is that the Ministry of Finance always would not disburse the money timely. And for them, they are constrained. They can only wait for the amount to be disbursed. I mean, over time, looking at our budget work, our budget advocacy work, we realize that, sometimes government will project so high, but in terms of getting the revenue, then becomes an issue. So it's a function of garbage in, garbage out, sort of. And so the fact is that if you have your domestic revenue mobilization going down, that would necessarily affect how much various sectors do receive.
But Doc, I think we have development partners who often help with funding also. So with them in
the World Bank has been very much involved.
Okay, so in fact, if you look at it, a greater proportion is funded by Government of Ghana, at least for the ministry's budget. Donors do help, but gradually we know that donors are also gradually weaning themselves off. In fact, they are just there to support, to help. It has to be within. The point is that it's an issue of priority. What do we prioritize as a country? Do we see social protection as a means to leapfrog people from poverty? If that is it, then we'll prioritize that than others. There are other things that government is quick to push money into. But these ones, in terms of social protection, and of course, I don't really understand why government is not looking at that, because the evidence clearly shows. Look at what I cited about the local economy-wide effect. In fact, that is for LEAP. For other things, I think for school feeding also, 1 Ghana cedi you spend is sending out around 3.5 cedis. So they are benefits.
All right, Doc, let's take a quick break and we'll come back. And then let's look at moving forward. What are some of the possible ways government can, paths government can chart which will improve, what we have so far. Okay. All right, we'll take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. As we're having this conversation, which is a very important one, about the LEAP program and the fact that the beneficiaries, what they receive doesn't do much, and cannot possibly do much in this day and age. And for so many years, about 2015, we have not had any increment in the amount that they receive. We're here on the set with Caleb Kuda, as well as Dr. Emmanuel Eifa, who is the Deputy Country Director for St. Ghana. And Dr. Eifa, you were saying earlier, before we went on break, you were talking about the amounts that they receive, and what it is that we can do. You talked about the fact that it impacts the economy. You know, as we're giving disbursements to them, it's a consuming a consumable amount that they are receiving. They are spending it on consumables. You know, so it in turn benefits the economy, as it were. Explain that again and take us into what it is we can do to improve the entire social protection system that we have.
Okay, thank you. So I was saying that one main idea of LEAP is to smoothen consumption. The fact that mostly some of these households who are in extreme poverty are not able to earn a living to the extent that some may go even hungry a whole day. And for that matter, if they receive the cash grant, they are able to purchase food to eat. And when they are purchasing food, it means that the watch seller, it means that the plantain seller, it means that the cassava seller, the rice seller will get some money. And that is where the local economy effect
will improve.
Yes, improves. That is one. We also spoke about the nutritional benefits of getting such, because once you're able to consume, then it means that nutritionally you get, and a host of other attendant effects, positive effects. And the challenge, as I said, has to do with one, the fact that inflation is eroding the purchasing power, the little money that they can use to purchase. And so going forward, what we suggest is that it's important that government, one, beyond increasing the amount, you also peg the increases to inflation. And so in current situation where inflation is around 54 or so percent, if it was just that government was to peg the increment to inflation, then the 42 to 57% erosion that I spoke about will be taken away. The fact that if you give them the 64 Ghana cedis now, which comes 6 months or so later, what do you expect them to use that? In fact, I forgot to say that in our previous work, some are actually even in debt because they borrow
in anticipation of this money.
Imagine your debt distress at 80 and your creditors are on your neck. You hear them come and go, then you sneak out of the house and say, tell them I'm not around.
So that is one. Secondly, we understand that the fiscal space for social protection in general and LEAP in particular is also constrained. So that is something that government needs to look at. By fiscal space, we are looking at the money that comes into social protection in general. Caleb was right by citing the fact that we are doing less than 2% or 1%, sorry, of our GDP. Clearly, from 2018 to now, the estimation is between 0.2% to 0.24% of GDP.
Of GDP.
That is, yes, in terms of that we spend on social protection.
Not just LEAP, but all
social protection. So if we are looking at LEAP, then it will be way down. If we look at not GDP.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying that we're spending less than 2% of the national.
In fact, less than 1%. Because 0.2 to 0.24.
On the sub-region is 2%.
Yeah,
so
2%.
Our neighboring countries are doing 2% of their GDP. We're doing less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
On all social protection programs.
Put together.
And the programs are school feeding, LEAP, NHIS,
LIPW.
Yes, LIPW.
Public
Works. And then
and capitation grant.
Grant.
In fact, last week there was this information from NAT that they were threatening to close down schools because capitation grant has not been paid for a long time. And so it's not really about just LEAP alone. I mean, the story that I'll repeat, Caleb actually followed, is symptomatic of all our social protection programs. And so finding fiscal space as a recommendation is key. Government can be intentional about that and prioritize that.
So it's all about priority.
Yes, for me it's more about priority. We understand the challenges of revenue mobilization, but the little that we have, we can then decide that it's important we can have fiscal space set up, a fund intentionally catered for such. Even with funds like NHIS, although it is there, evidence has shown that in terms of disbursement, we just have almost about just a half or 60%
Because when
actually going to
when I get
NHI.
receipts for things I pay, I see NHI levy
Yes.
over there.
When you go to a restaurant, you will see
I
NHIS over there.
levy over
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
Koko, like he's saying, it's really about priorities.
Priorities, yeah.
Because we know when our governments want to do anything, they really do
They
it,
really do
whether
it.
or not
Yes.
it's possible
Exactly.
or
Yes.
otherwise.
Yeah.
If it's political, we get money
You get
to do it.
The fact that most of these people who are beneficiaries are not people who be vocal, who are on social media talking about the fact that they have
haven't
received
received it.
And you see, the other thing is, these beneficiaries are not saying NAPCO beneficiaries, teacher trainees or nursing trainee who go and pick it at the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance. Until
These
the
are
media,
vulnerable people who
until
are
the media talks about
aged
this,
and-
until civil society talks about this, they are dying in silence.
And they're not like they're not even entitled. That's
They
the,
are entitled,
Yeah.
but they
In fact-
feel they are not
Yes,
entitled to
exactly.
it. You get. So we need to do a lot more for the very vulnerable, because like I was saying in the report, if after all that you've done for this nation, you get to a point where you are vulnerable and the nation cannot take care of you, then is it worth dying for in the first place? Because don't forget that we are all not too far from falling short of
Yes.
this.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
In fact,
Oh,
We were
yeah.
just one hospital bill short of needing social protection.
Yeah.
You know.
Talking about
brings it home.
entitlement, we did what is called the Citizen Manifesto on Social Protection. That was prior to the 2020 election.
Right.
And in fact, we went around and some people really did not see it as their right for social protection.
These are beneficiaries.
These are beneficiaries.
Okay.
People think that
it's reflected
these
in
are
all the people I
freebies
spoke to. Yeah.
that government needs to give to them. In fact, that goes for us talking so much about the need to actually fast track the social protection bill.
Yeah.
The bill, which was supposed to be in Parliament, is currently still with the ministry, undergoing some fine tuning. And within that, once that is fast tracked and passed, then we can begin to really hold government on to say that in fact it is people's right to enjoy social protection. And I believe that when people see that as a right, it is also going to help. So passing the social protection bill will really help. So for people to demand that as a right, and government will have no option than to
just
really
go
go
there.
by
Yeah.
what the bill says. If the president is watching, we want to say that as much as possible, if the bill comes to his table,
Yeah.
he should assent it as quickly as possible. Data is key, because my sister was talking about before when we went off, was just talking about, I mean, how come that people like Davy or so is not a beneficiary. The fact is that he cannot just walk into the ministry to say that just register me to be part.
Eligible.
Yes.
I'm eligible. The window, of course, is closed. It has to be open for other people to come on. There's something called recertification. When LEAP turned 10 years, that was in 2018, we did some work to look at recertification of the LEAP. The fact that there are some people that need to be weaned off and then bring on board other people. Government has been doing what is called collecting data on what is called the household registry. That is to help in targeting. We are aware that currently there's some work going on in Volta region. We started in the northern regions, and because of funding, World Bank support, because of funding, we really did not continue with it some time ago. Now, it's been 3 months, I guess, in Volta region. They need to move to central region and other places. Until we get this whole data, then targeting and whatnot becomes an issue. So it's important also to fast track and prioritize that. Mind you, the data that was collected in 2018 or so in the northern region, for me now, it's become...
It's outdated.
Yes,
It's outdated.
It's
outdated.
outdated.
Yeah.
So it's important we fast track that one as well, so that we can really target and bring in other people like the woman that Caleb actually interviewed. So I believe this. Yes.
That's her name.
Yes.
So if 2.4 million people
Extreme poverty.
are living in extreme poverty, what kind of nation are we if we are only taking care of 300,000?
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, you see
What
that
kind, what kind of people are we?
the 2.4 for me, looking at the current trend, if we are to do a survey, it will even be more than that. And in fact, what was called multidimensional poverty, which is different from the monometric one, that is a 2.4.
Yeah.
So when you're breaking it down, person is poor style.
Yes. For the multidimensional poverty, it's for children it's about 73%, and for adults about 48%. And that one looks at various deprivations: education, health, and most of these social protection ones.
Yeah.
Of course, Ghana is not the only country with people who are poor.
Exactly.
Relatively, even in the US,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are. But we are in Ghana, we need to be concerned about
Ours.
ours. And for that matter, like your question about what kind of people are we, I believe that it's about time that we take critical look at the poor and the vulnerable.
Yeah.
We shouldn't just give lip service to this. We should act. I don't know if I have my last word. Let me commend Caleb, and then let me commend CTTV for this. And I believe that when the media and civil society come together to actually unearth some of these things, government sometimes will see and then will act. Sometimes you'll be surprised. There was some time that when the Ministry of Finance, prior to the budget, our budget being read, we sat with the ministry to discuss with them. One of the civil society actually showed a picture of a school somewhere in the Volta region that actually showed that kids were sitting on blocks. And in fact, the ministry was surprised because they clearly had actually disbursed money for construction to be done for those schools.
That's
That particular school. Until these things were unearthed by civil society and the media. Really, they didn't know about it. So sometimes you see, it's also not enough just to sit in Accra to think that everything
things are being done.
Yes, it's okay.
So monitoring and evaluation.
Monitoring is very important. And so I want to commend City and other media for bringing this in up. Of course, working in collaboration with civil society.
Thank you. It
All right.
was a
Thank you.
delight to do this. Just to finally say that, I mean, we all have people in the villages, grandmothers, we have family relations who call on us sometimes for some help. You understand? So we need to take interest in some of these stories. And when it gets political, the electioneering season comes, let's probe, let's ask questions. What are the plans for our very vulnerable people? Because if the dependents, those who look to us, those who depend on us, the very, very weakest of the weak are relatively comfortable, then we can have the peace of mind to pursue other things to take care of them and ourselves. But if the state is unable to take care of the very vulnerable, the very weak, that speaks poorly of us. And so I want to urge everyone watching, listening to us, if you didn't know about social protection, today you know. At various levels, even for you and I sitting on TV today, there's a point that we will need social protection. You understand? But this is the most vulnerable angle that we are taking it from. So we are saying we can do better as a government. We can do better as a people. So let's inform ourselves. Let's arm ourselves with this information. And let's champion the interest of the very vulnerable in our society.
All right. Well, that was Caleb Kuda you just heard. We've been having this conversation on LEAP beneficiaries and the fact that we desperately need to look at increasing what it is that they get, however frequently we give it to them. We should make sure that it's more regular than we've been doing so that it's actually worth it, and then, just improve social protection generally across board. All right, we're going to take a quick break. So big thank you again to Dr. Emmanuel Eifa, who is the Deputy Country Director of SEND Ghana.